Well, to look into this a little further, I've invited Sarah Jane into our studio today. Sarah, thank you. You're a youth worker, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
So in your work in youth ministry and working with young people, do you ever get the feeling that there is a sort of a spiritual component to working with young people?
Yep, it's definitely a battlefield out there sometimes, and sometimes you may feel like you're in the middle of it with the young people, and sometimes you may step back and actually see a whole lot of stuff happening right before your eyes.
Even spiritual stuff like demons and angels kind of stuff?
Even stuff like that. Everything from temptation that you face as adults and also as young people, you just see it out there happening everywhere.
And do people get scared when they experience that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah, for sure. Sometimes it's a bit of excitement. I think that's a bit of to do with the Hollywood movies, and sometimes it actually is, really scary.
And the answer to those kind of issues?
Putting your trust in God, and just recognising it as a spiritual warfare. And when it comes to spiritual warfare, He's the one, and His angels are the ones to fight that.
So no matter whether you're experiencing angels or demons or whatever's taking place in your life, if we turn to Jesus, Jesus is able to conquer those things. We're going to explore this in greater detail in our Bible study time now. Angels and demons seems a little far-fetched. Heather, do you think that in our scientific age, do you think that angels and demons are real?
Yes, I believe that, Neil, because science isn't about spirituality, it's about science.
Okay, and in the Bible, do we have evidence in the Bible of where we would encounter angels?
Jesus had a whole story there in Matthew, chapter 4, verses 1 to 11, where Jesus is actually tempted in the wilderness by Satan. And he deals with this. He's addressing a real being, and it just wears him out.
A real being?
According to Jesus, if you're going to take his word for it.
Okay, so here Jesus is encountering a real spiritual being called Satan.
Yes.
And having this encounter with him to the point where Jesus is being tempted multiple times.
Yes. And worn out when it's over. This was a real battle of the mind and the heart.
Okay, but that's not the only time that we see Jesus encountering spiritual things like angels or demons, is it, Sarah?
No, actually, the whole way through the New Testament, they refer to demons and angels, and it's not just a metaphor for good and evil. He's actually talking about the spiritual battle that goes on. And it even talks about that in Ephesians when it talks about it's not a battle of flesh and blood, it's a spiritual warfare.
So it's a real battle, it's a spiritual battle between real powers. Do you want to just read that verse for us in Ephesians? I think it's Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 12. It's a really important verse, I think, because Paul actually just really outlines something really important for us there.
Yep, sure. This is not a wrestling match against a human opponent. We are wrestling with rulers, authorities, the powers who govern this world of darkness, and spiritual forces that control evil in the heavenly world.
Okay, so we're looking at Revelation chapter 12, and I guess as a precursor to looking at Revelation 12, we're just thinking about this topic of angels and demons a little bit here. And as far as the New Testament is concerned, they treat them as though they're real. Is that right?
Yes. Yes. Well, Jesus cast them out of people, told them to be quiet. There's a lot in the Gospels about his ministry of dealing with humans who were tormented by these demons.
Now, some people take this to excess, don't they?
Yeah. Yes.
And they see a spook in everything and a demon in everything that they're looking at. But, without going down that sort of pathway, Jesus actually said something really quite amazing in, I think it's in the Gospel of John, isn't it?
Yep, he sure did. In John 10:10, he said, "A thief comes to steal, kill and destroy, but I came so that my sheep will have life and so that they will have everything they need."
Okay, so the thief is coming to do three things, isn't it?
Yes.
To steal,
Yep.
to kill,
Yes.
and destroy. Heather, who's the thief?
It's the devil, the ruler of demons.
Okay, so he's coming, and whenever we feel like we're getting life stolen from us or taken away or we're being robbed, that's the spiritual work, battle that's going on.
That's the source where it comes from. And often it's acted out by people. Sometimes you can choose by default. You make your mind up whether you're going to do a right thing or a wrong thing, and everybody knows what's right and wrong. And when they choose to do a wrong thing, it's coming from the power of evil.
Now, Sarah, you've got a really fun story for us here, haven't you?
Yes, I do.
Why don't you share this story with us? Because it's a real favourite of mine as well. I loved it the very first time I heard it.
Yeah, it's actually a story from Max Lucado, and he talks about this bird. It's a parakeet called Chippy. And Chippy's minding his own business in his little bird cage, and the owner comes along and decides that she is going to clean out the bird cage. So she pulls out the vacuum cleaner, the easiest way to do it. Yes, as you do. Opens the door and has the vacuum cleaner in the bird cage just as the phone rings.
Oh.
So she turns around to grab the phone, not watching what she's doing, and next minute this bird just gets sucked up the vacuum cleaner. Yep, I can't imagine what sound it
poor
would have
Chippy the
made.
parakeet, just gone like that, eh?
Yep, just gone.
Yep.
And of course she turns around, realises the bird isn't there anymore,
Yep.
freaks out and opens the vacuum cleaner. And there he is. He's still alive, still breathing, which I think is a miracle.
Yeah.
And so he's all dirty, paru as dirty. And so she takes him out and she decides, oh, now he needs a bit of a wash. So she takes him into the bathroom and, you know, good thinking, nice warm water. This poor bird comes after this wash, is soaked, traumatised, been sucked up the vacuum cleaner, chucked under a hot tap to get all the dirt off him. And now he's sitting there and he's starting to shiver because it's freezing. And so she thinks, oh no, he's freezing. So what's the best way to dry a bird? Pulls out the hairdryer.
Not the hairdryer, oh no.
Plugs in the hairdryer, full beam. And this poor bird now is just being almost cooked alive, really, you would think. So it's all nice and dry, puts it back in the cage. And the bird survives. Sitting there in its cage, though, doesn't sing anymore. Just sits, it probably looks
Like a stunned
stunned.
mullet, eh?
Stunned mullet. So this poor bird has been sucked up, washed out, and blown over. Yeah.
Poor bird. And I guess, you know, the point of that story is that can be our lot sometimes, isn't it? That we feel like we've been sucked in, washed up and blown over. I mean, wow.